Let's talk about modern dimensional gray coverage, one of the #1 services requested in the salon. I'm Sean Goddard, Redken's Global Artistic Ambassador, and I'm going to show you how to use Shades ALK and Blonde IQ to create the look on my clients. If you love Redken education, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and let us know in the comments below what kind of video you want to see next. Now let's get ready to learn. So tell me about your hair color. What is it that you're hoping to see happen today?
I would like to have like my grays cover, but I don't want it to be too like dark. I want it more like natural, like that blends with my hair. And I also would like to add some like dimension, like around my face, more like highlights, more
Some
brightness.
brightness?
Yes, correct.
Perfect. So I can see that you do have some grays.
Yes, I do.
How often do you come to get your hair colored usually?
I do every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks. Okay, great. So you definitely want something that's not going to give you like a harsh line.
Exactly.
We can give you a new service that's going to give you more of a softer regrowth so that you don't have that hard line. And it's also going to look a lot more natural versus it looking really like dark and saturated like some hair color could look. This is going to keep you looking very reflective, still having some dimension in your hair, just keeping it looking like it's your natural so nobody will know that you have the gray in it.
Love that. Yes, that will be great.
Perfect. And then for your dimension, what I'm thinking is that we could do a balayage effect around the face. What balayage is, it's a freehand painting method. So it ends up looking very natural and sun-kissed looking versus if we were to do more of like a typical foil, those end up looking a little bit more linear and a little bit stripier. So the good news is with the balayage service, you can just get that done like twice a year and then come in still every 2 to 4 weeks for your root retouch and an all over gloss, and your hair will look amazing the whole time. It'll grow out really nice and soft.
That sounds perfect. Exactly what I'm looking for.
Great, let's get started.
Awesome.
Okay, so like we discussed in the consultation, we're gonna add dimension throughout the mid-lengths and ends, focusing around the face, but also get gray coverage. Now, here's what's gonna be different about this service. Most of the time, stylists would go in and apply your gray retouch or coverage color on the zone 1, and then apply your balayage or your highlights throughout zone 2 and 3. Here's the problem with that. The processing time for Shades ALK is only 20 minutes, and I'm gonna have to gloss her hair at the end anyway. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna split this service and do the balayage portion first with Blonde IQ, process that, wash her hair, dry it, and then apply my ALK at zone 1 for the gray coverage, and then my alternate formula of ALK through zone 2 and 3 to gloss the balayage that I just did. Again, this is a bit different than how you might normally work, but here's the good news. By guaranteeing that her hair is freshly shampooed after I do the balayage service, it's gonna guarantee me even better gray coverage. So that's how it's gonna work. Now, what I wanna point out though, is her percentage of gray. Through the front area, of course, we have a higher percentage. That's where we tend to get the most grays. We're talking about 75% gray. You can see that she has a very small regrowth in that area because it was just done about 2 weeks ago. However, through the back area, you'll see that we're working with about 50% gray through the back. So a little less gray, 50% here, 75% through the front. ALK is going to be the perfect option to give her that modern gray coverage that doesn't have that intense dark saturation and will grow out a little bit softer for her. It's also going to be a great tool to refresh my balayage with after, because I have the ability to maybe bump it up one more level with my ALK service. So that's why I'm going to do balayage first and then go in and do my gray coverage and zone 2 and 3 glossing second. Here's the best part about Shades ALK. There are 5 families that give you up to 75% gray coverage. So I feel completely confident that she's gonna get coverage from the shades that we select, especially because we're gonna be working with a darker, deeper level. Okay, so to section for this balayage, what we're gonna do is we're gonna separate the hair down the center. I chose a center because she flips her hair from side to side, and the center part will give us coverage no matter which way she wears her hair. The next thing I'm gonna do is go from the high point of the head down to the center of the ear. That's going to separate the front from the back. Then I'm going to find where the head goes to bevel and separate the side from the top. So the first section is going to be continuing around that line from the front to separate the top from the back. So the key areas that I'm going to be looking to get the color in this technique is here, here, and here. Through the back area here, this is often an area that you can leave out and avoid coloring because it's going to be your pocket of depth. And then we'll place a few lighter highlights throughout the very top layer. I'm going to begin around the front because that's usually, if your face frame was being done naturally from the sun, you're going to usually get most of that sun around the front area of the face. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my first section here and I'm going to divide it from the top corner to the bottom corner. I want you to see how there is some baby hairs there. I'm just going to push those out of the way so they don't get included into my balayage. So now that I've pushed the baby hairs out of the way, now it's time to jump into our painting application. When you're doing balayage, the most important thing is that you keep your brush flat to the surface of the hair versus putting the bristles inside of the hair. That's going to avoid getting any spots or speckles up in the top area, one of the most common challenges with balayage. So watch, I'm going to take my brush flat and I'm going to apply the color with just painting it onto the surface. I always start with less product. You can always add more, but it's harder to take it away. Now notice I'm keeping some space between the scalp or the zone 1 area and my application because I want to be able to blend the product closer to that. Now you can determine how close you want the color to be or how grown out you want it to be. One of my favorite tools that I like to use to blend with is actually my pinky finger. So watch this. I can take my pinky finger and just gently blend and transition that color to get a really nice smooth blend. Now you might be like, well, maybe should I blend it more? The reality is because she's got a darker starting level, if I blend it too much in that area, it's not going to lift the same way that it will in my heavier saturated area. So therefore, don't be afraid of having it look a little bit stronger and bolder. Remember, that's just about 1 foil's width of hair that has color on it right now. So it's not going to be as intense as it looks. Now, before I paint to the ends, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk this section down to be able to paint on the other side of the section. So if I colored all the way to the ends, I would have no way to get tension on this section. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna pinch and pull the section gently, just walking it down to maintain the surface tension on this back area here. You might get a little bit of buckling underneath, and that's okay because you've already painted that area. The goal is to have a clean surface on the other side to be able to work on. So now I'm gonna come in and I'm going to create a diagonal back point of light. So I'm going to start higher up here on the edge around the face and dropping that lower down towards the back. Visually, you can see it's higher here, lower here. That's going to give me more of a pocket of depth in this back area. So now I can go in and blend it the same way I did in the previous section. And now it's time to go in with more full saturation down through the mid-lengths and ends. So I'm keeping my brush completely flat the whole time. You can see I switched to the larger, wider bristle brush to be able to load on that product really heavily and efficiently. I'm going to start to use my hand to condense the product in and saturate inside of that section where the ends start to get skinnier. The thing you want to keep in mind when you do that is if you just squeeze really hard right away, that's how you're going to get a line. Think about it if you were using a flat iron on a large section of hair. If you close the flat iron really tight, it leaves a crease there. The same thing applies when we're balayaging. So what I'm going to do is start with gentle pressure, and then as I feel the hair get skinnier, I'm really starting to put more firm pressure to make sure I get that product all the way through to the ends. And then I'm just going to place a piece of foil under it just so it doesn't sit on her shoulders while she's processing. The next section, I'm releasing that triangle above. Now I want to over direct the hair slightly so that when I'm done with this section, it's going to land in the negative space that I have there. So I'm going to elevate this hair straight out first. I'm going to come in with my smaller brush. And because this hair doesn't land on a perimeter, I'm not worried about coloring the underneath. I'm just going to simply paint the surface of the hair. So the same thing, I'm going to start keeping my brush flat, starting up higher on this edge, and dropping lower as I go down to the back, creating a diagonal back point of light. Once you get the product laid on there, we can go ahead again and use our pinky finger to blend that up and give us a nice transition. But remember, don't take away too much product or you won't get the lift in that area that you're looking for. So now we're going to move to the perimeter in the back area here. So I'm going to release that section. You can see that it has a square shape. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this whole section. I'm going to elevate it up first. Make sure you check for any baby hairs. Now, because this is a large section, I'm going to take the large brush, holding the section flat between my fingers, and just start to unload some of that color into the middle, giving myself plenty of room to determine how close I want to blend it to the hairline. Once I've got some product there, now I can take my finger and do the rest of the blend. Now that I've lowered the section, I'm going to come back through again on another diagonal back. See how I'm going back over and making sure that I resaturate some of those areas where I blended the color away. That's really important, again, to continue getting the maximum lift in those areas. You want to really not see the color you're trying to lift through the lightener. So now that we did it on the other side, we're going to jump forward to the front area here, and we're going to focus on the face frame section. So to find the front face framing section, we're going to look and see where the head goes to bevel. You can see right about there is where my comb hits flat again. So I'm going to take my section from there down to the corner like so. That's created the face frame piece. So for now, I'm going to clip the rest of the hair back and out of the way. So when we look at where this hair is going to live, it can either live back, so I want to address this side of it, or it's going to live down, so I want to address that side of it as well. So I'm going to start by elevating this section up, like we were doing in the previous sections. I'm going to pinch the section so it's wide and flat, and I'm going to start to apply the lightener with my narrow, long brush and blend that towards the hairline. Then what I need to do is now walk this section down this way, one, so it gets out of her face, but also so I can paint this other side. So I'm just going to spin the chair for 1 second, and I'm going to now pinch and pull it down to be able to have this surface to paint on. Now the next piece in the front is going to be that remaining section that I had left behind it. We're going to take this whole large section all in one. We're going to elevate it off from the head. You want to make sure you're not holding it down. Elevate it up for softness. And now I'm going to go for more of a lived-in area, but I want to add some lightness on through the end. So I'm going to start lower, creating that same diagonal back feel. And we'll just gently place that on that same foil as well. I'm going to continue now doing the same thing on the other side. Remember, this area we're not focusing on color, so it's just going to be this top area here. Look at where this color in the front is transitioning down and kind of pick that up towards the ends on the back. And look visually where I would want that blend to continue. So we're going to start here. Okay, and there we have our finished balayage application. We're going to process this for about 35 minutes, shampoo, dry, and then get ready to apply our Shades ALK for great coverage and color melt into a lighter formula for the end. Okay, so here is the end result of our lightening service, our open air balayage with Redken's Blonde IQ. You can see the advanced neutralization, how beautiful this already looks, but we're gonna make it look even better with Shades ALK. The first thing I'm gonna do is go back in and address that gray coverage. We're gonna use 4N as our shade, so I'm gonna get started applying that on the zone 1 all over her entire head. One of the things I love about ALK is the consistency. A key difference from a lot of the Redken products that we have is this is mixed at a 1 to 1.5 ratio. So you're gonna do 1 part color to 1.5 parts of the 10 volume peroxide developer. So a few great things about Shades ALK. First off is the consistency. Like I said, it's mixed in a 1 to 1.5 ratio with just 10 volume peroxide. The other big win is it's a 20-minute process that has to be done on dry hair. So quick gray coverage or brightening, whatever you're using ALK for, is only going to process for 20 minutes with 10 volume. We have 50 shades available that are all completely intermixable. So you can create any shade that you and your client are trying to create within those palettes. We've got 5 families that give up to 75% gray coverage, and on darker levels, we're talking coverage. So it's a really great tool for that client that doesn't want to commit to permanent hair color, but they want to start to get gray blending or gray coverage with it. The last thing that's really great about it is that you can get up to 1 level of brightening. So when we formulate for her zone 2 and 3, you're going to see how it's going to be able to actually brighten and even out the canvas because it has more opaque coverage than, let's say, using Shades EQ gloss. That makes it a great tool when you're trying to work with color correction. Sometimes you might get inconsistent lift, and the opacity that Shades ALK has gives you that full-bodied saturation that really evens out your canvas. Some other great features of ALK is that you get up to 8 weeks of color vibrancy. So it's really long lasting and really great conditioning benefits that you get with the cream base. So the hair is going to be really visibly shiny and super reflective, which is especially great in the case of my client's hair here. We know that gray hair tends to be a little bit coarser, a little bit drier. So ALK is really going to make that hair visibly look repaired in just 1 application. Another really great hot tip for superior gray blending is taking really fine sections. So really thin sections will ensure that you get superior gray blending from this product. So make sure you take them small enough that you can see through them, get good saturation, especially in those gray root areas around the face. We know those are usually more resistant and stubborn. So I'm really being aware to put lots of product on that area. So I'm going to continue on all 4 quadrants in the same manner, and then we'll catch you up with what we're going to apply on zone 2 and 3. Now it's time to apply the color on zones 2 and 3. We have a new formula, and I've decided to work with a bottle for ease of application. I'm working with equal parts of 9GI and 9V. So a gold iridescent and a violet. Now, in this case, I'm actually going to start around the perimeter where most of the lightness is, because I want to be able to get that 1 level of brightening that we can get with Shades ALK. So I'm going to start by working around the hairline. So I'm just going to section out the deeper veil that hangs over top so I can get access to all those light pieces. And now I'm going to begin at the bottom, working my way up. So one of the biggest things that I love about an alkaline demi versus an acidic demi is that I'm able to get that 1 level of brightening. So in this case, I'm going to be able to bump her up a little bit, but also be able to get that neutralization of the violet tone. The other thing is the consistency, like we mentioned before. The cream is really going to nourish that more coarse hair texture that she has because of the grays underneath, and really give it a high shine finish with lots of softness. Now, you may be familiar with the Redken color mantra, where we used to talk about only applying alkaline on zone 1 and always applying acidic on zone 2 and 3. And we've updated that color mantra because our technologies have also updated. But the key thing of why we really created that mantra is because a lot of the times stylists would just apply the permanent color alkaline on zone 1 and then refresh the ends with that same color by pulling it through in zones 2 and 3. And the reality is that Alkaline color on zones 2 and 3 is not always a bad thing, but if you do it over and over and over, if the hair can't handle it, it will ultimately lead to you adding distress to the lengths of the hair when they don't necessarily need it. So even in this particular case, today I'm using Shades ALK, but maybe the next time I go to gloss her hair, I might just want to use Shades Q Gloss. It's always done on a case-by-case basis of what the hair needs, what you're trying to achieve, and what the hair can handle in terms of lifting or brightening. I mixed the 9GI and the 9V. The 9V because I want to neutralize any of the yellow undertones that are peeking through there, and the GI because I really wanted to balance it. I didn't want to make it look ashy and super flat. So whenever you're trying to create bright tones that are really balanced, it's always important to still have some yellow in the hair, which would be the gold in the GI, and mixing that with a violet or a cooler tone. The two of those together is still going to give me a vibrant, reflective blonde tone without it looking too smoky. A great tip when working with the bottle, you can see I'm just putting the hair between my two fingers and swiping the bottle along as I go, keeping one hand slightly up. This allows me to avoid getting any drips of color on the floor, on your shoes, on the client. And it also allows you to just put exactly the amount of color that you need. So you're not wasting the product and overly saturating the hair and going through more than you need to. So now I'm just going to repeat this on all 4 quadrants. We'll process it for 20 minutes and see the end results. All right, so I can't wait for you to see it. It looks so good. Your gray is covered, the tone is amazing, and the style is really looking so good. Take a look.
Wow.
Right? You look so good. Beautiful. So here is our end result. I'm obsessed with the shine that we got, the gray coverage, and the tone and condition is just amazing. Can't wait for you to check out ALK. For all the colors I used to create this look, for more information about Level Loyalty Program, and for all of the updates about Redken education, check the description below. When you go to recreate this look, make sure you tag Redken across all platforms so we can see your beautiful end results and celebrate your wins. Until next month, I'm Godard. Can't wait to see what you create.